Hello. Since we have kind of a long distance bidding process here, I've tried to make things a little bit organized so we're all on the same page. So I've kind of painted pink marks on the trees that need to come out, and the ones with I don't see a pink mark on that one there in the middle, but it has to come out. Dead ash tree. So we got 3 dead ash trees, a big dead, I think that's an oak covered in poison ivy. And then the orange ones are trees that don't necessarily have to come out, but the way I see it, they're just kind of cluttering up our landscape here. So I would go ahead and take them out, give you some open space, maybe grass will grow there someday. So that's how I'm bidding it. This one over here has a pink X on it because it's just kind of growing out directly at the house, big major leaner or whatever. So the trees I'm keeping, these are hickories. They're kind of a group of 3. I marked the one to remove in the center because it's just an itty bitty little understory tree, but the 3 of them will kind of grow up together. And so basically when we're done, that cherry tree in the middle, it could come out. So when we're done with this, it'll be mostly open space with a couple of trees. Should be pretty nice. Also as an option, we can bring some dirt in here. When we remove this tree right here, you can see the root flare on this one. We could be really time consuming to grind them all out. So what we could do is just grind them a little bit at the top and kind of bring in a little bit of dirt in here, and pretty decent amount of dirt. Level all this up and get some grass planted and make this area pretty nice and tolerable, and kind of like a lawn. So that's kind of my plan for this area, and I'll bid that accordingly. On to the next. Oh yeah, so the black locust out here, the tall trees with no marks on them, the ones by the telephone pole, yeah, they're kind of tall. They're kind of tangled up in wires, so they would be more time consuming to take down. We can leave them. I just chose to leave them, so if you want to bid on removing those, plus they're kind of border trees, they're out there, give the house a little bit of privacy, so, and some shade in here. Not sure, but I don't know. They could go later, or we can bid on them later. So okay, talk to you. That's on to the next area. All right. So here's what I'm going to bid on these. Also, we'll be going up. It looks like a dead limb. Like 2 dead limbs on this tree we'd be removing to, maybe 3. At least 2 or 3 dead limbs on this tree that need removed also. Okay, and what we're calling section 2, stepped on a walnut. That's why I want to take out the walnut tree. I put a tag to remove 1 walnut because that's kind of in the yard. That one kind of leans out over the driveway, so the walnuts fall on the neighbor, so not really doing much harm. Plus it'd be more of a pain to remove, so this one would be pretty simple. Get the truck right in here. So these 3 little juvenile trees, 1 dead ash tree, and these little understory trees, just kind of pesky right in the middle of the yard. So I figured take those out. There's a dead ash right there, a bunch of dead wood. Good news is it doesn't go super high in the tree, but all this dead wood can come off of here. Just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 little limbs. Little dead snag there. Little insignificant little tree there we can just drop. Just to clean things up. So this is what we're going to call section 2. And price this individually. That little tree could come out. Wouldn't really cost anything to drop that if we just didn't need it growing over here in the garage. So yeah, might as well. Okay, section 2. All right, what we're calling section 3 is everything behind the garage and behind the house. And leaving a lot of trees over there because, it's back there behind the garage, behind the whatever. This one, there's like 3 established oaks and just a whole bunch of little understory trees, which if you want to have a lawn and grass back here someday, I think it'd be a more marketable property. When it has to change hands with the lawn here instead of all the trees. So, and most of them are pretty easy to get down. The 2 there, they'll be a little bit pesky. But anyway, so removing just about everything except for the 3 established oak trees here. This is an elm that just grows totally sideways over there towards the oak. So got a big mess here. The whole wood pile will get all cleaned up. Cut all the trees down. I forgot to put a piece of... We'll remove this one too. We'll put a piece of... or maybe I was going to keep that one. We could. It doesn't really matter. I would say get rid of it. So that one goes too. So basically everything back here. We'll clean up that brush pile because it's an eyesore. Put that in the chipper. And clean up all of this. And once it's all clean and we grind everything and everything, we'll, I don't know, we could seed this whole thing. Maybe we'll have to talk about that. Because we could just rough up a couple inches, maybe put down some seed. I'll chat with you about that. So anyway, virtually every tree in this area. Oh yeah, while we're back here, this oak tree, big white oak, it only has a couple limbs in it. A couple of dead limbs, that is. Yeah, just that one there. A couple little dead stubs. One up there. Little stub over in there. We'll get out of there. Not much. I think there's one over there on the other side above the garage. We'll get those out. And this tree, we're going to take that lead right there that goes all the way off the house. Take that entire thing off. Then a few little dead limbs and stubbed up things. Can't remember. We may have discussed taking off this entire lead. I guess we can make that an option as well. That tree would grow okay, growing straight up, I think. Or sort of a codominant stem that goes all the way down into here. So we could leave it and tie it together, but it leans out into the pine trees. I was thinking, if I remember right, we might have talked about taking that entire thing off as well. So I'll make a notation in the bid and itemize that. So that's it for this section. Like I said, another option would be to bring in a few tons of dirt to spread around this area and seed it. So I'll list that. A few dead limbs in this tree as well. Up in there that we will get off. See how both these oaks have a few dead limbs on them. Nothing too significant, but anyway, we'll get those dead limbs off too. Just noticed we've got kind of a nice row of pine trees through here, and lots of weeds and brush and leaves on the ground. So perhaps a good option may be to clean all this up. And there's a bunch of stuff on the back side there. So we'll put that down as an option to clean the ground, leaf litter, all the stuff underneath it, lift it up so that could be seeded and mow under it. Perhaps, because it's kind of a, I don't know, the trees are kind of nice, a nice border, so if grass went right up to that, that would be kind of a nice option, I suppose. So there's a dead thing we're cutting down anyway, I think. But all the stuff amongst the pine trees to be pulled out. And I need to ask you also, does this property go back far enough to take a bunch of those brush piles back to the woods, or do they need to go to the chipper and get disposed of? So there's another option for us. This entire mess goes and gets ground. I don't know why that's a mound like that. Kind of curious, but if it's a mound, it could be landscaped with something better than that. Yeah, the cedar tree, yeah, it's all ugly. So it all goes. All right, last section, I guess we'll call it, where the entire west side of the house, of the yard, and the front yard. Pretty much everything goes, all the scrubby stuff. Those little dead ones on the corner. Tiny little pine tree. Right, last section is the west side of the house and the front yard, which that little pine tree, we could trim that off the side of it and let it grow right there. It wouldn't be bad. Really going to change the price any because it's a tiny little tree anyway. But anyway, little dead ones on the corner. We're going to take out this big leaning oak because it's got a bleak future. It's going to fall eventually, I think. I think that's a little bur oak right there. That's a mostly dead limb. We could take that limb off and let it grow in case this one would ever, I don't know. That little tree could stay. It could go. It doesn't matter. We got a brush pile down there we'll clean up. I ran out of orange tape, so I used green tape. All of those marked for removal. I left the little pine tree. I mean, it wouldn't be a bad deal to let that thing grow. It's a perfect little tree. Wouldn't be a big deal to stick it right in the chipper either. It's kind of insignificant whether we do or we don't. We're keeping that one in the center right there that's up above the wires. And the other little one is set back from the wires enough where it can kind of grow up a little bit. But everything else, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 little things come out. The 2 cedars, kind of ugly and growing up right underneath the oak tree. And I left this little pine here. It could grow a little bit. And it'd be easy to remove it one time in the future anyway. So we got to leave a little bit out here in the front yard, I guess. And we were going to trim a little bit of this oak tree back off the house, I think. Just a little bit, really minor. And of course, get a little bit of dead wood. There's a big dead limb sticking out there, a little one there, a little one there. Nothing major, but there's some dead wooding to be done in that oak tree. And that concludes our tour. As far as dirt work, mostly just weeds. The yard, you just use a real good spraying and an overseeding once everything is gone.